That could have been an expensive mistake if I dropped it. Hello everyone, welcome back to another Doctor Who product related video. In today's Doctor Who product related video we're doing another limited versus standard 14th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver edition. Ooh, it's all very exciting. I've done it for the collection range. I'll leave a link in the description below for that video and the little card thing there as well, so you can check that out. So the way this video is going to work, I'm going to be comparing the online exclusive Sonic to the mass retail of the 14th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver, take a look at the features and the appearances of this Sonic, and overall, which one do I prefer? I have reviewed the limited edition 14th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver, so again I will leave a link in the description below to that video so you can check that out. So without further ado, let's dive into this versus. It's sort of a mini review of the standard as well. Let's give that a bit of love as well while it's in the box. So yeah, it's two in one. It's a versus and a little brief review of the standard version. So without further ado, let's take a look at the packaging and then we'll take a look at the Sonics and then the features both these Sonics have. Taking a look at the packaging for both of these Sonics, so we have the limited and then we have the standard version there. So it's interesting that we've got two of the Doctor Who style guide packaging. So this is more reminiscent of the Robert Harrop Regeneration set and the two upcoming B&M sets, the Revelation of the Dalek set and the Sixth Doctor from TARDIS, whereas this packaging is more reminiscent of the Richard Hurnell and Death Zone Dalek. Now there is talk that each Doctor is going to have their own sort of colour. Much like the Star Wars The Black series, if you follow that, that has a different colour code for each film and series, which I think is really good for merch, for Doctor Who in general to copy, because it gives it helps identify merch in store shelves. So if you're just quickly browsing trying to find an item you want, you can go, oh, that's the one I want because of the colour coded, which I think is a really good idea to incorporate. But yeah, the packaging, very nice. For both of these, really, I like the minimalist look to this, but I think this has got more of a buy me quality to it, and I think it really stood out when I saw it in Forbidden Planet on the store shelf. So yeah, you can see the differences there, and if, I'm just going to take the limited Sonic out because I'm scared it's going to break because it's not fastened in. But we've got the side there. You can see this nice sort of cosmic star background, which is very reminiscent of the 1980s title sequence, which I think is a cool little nod to. And on the back there we've got an image of the 14th Doctor on the limited edition version, and this has just got a bio on the 14th Doctor, whereas this is more about the actual Sonic Screwdriver itself. Taking a look at the appearances for both Sonics side by side, so yeah, I have to say the limited one does look really good in the right light, as you can see sort of the blue sort of electric plating, which does look very nice, but I'll get on to my thoughts on that on the Vax Metal plastic in a minute. So let's do a little side by side of the Sonic. So we have the end caps here sort of there, so you can see we have a much more sort of shinier metallic finish on the limited edition one there. Again, exactly the same details. In a way it seems like the detail, I don't know if it's just the paint, but it seems the detail seems much more sharper on the online version, the limited version. I don't know if that's just me or my eyes playing tricks, but it just seems to be more defined there. But yeah, you can see the detail there. Of course, you've got this nice shiny gold band, and the sort of leather section is exactly the same there, exactly the same detailing. And then we have the nice sort of chrome band there, which is a lot more nice. And then we have the sort of decal, which is a lot more, I would say, lighter on the sort of standard mass retail version, but I will say the join line is a lot more noticeable on the mass retail version, which is a bit of a shame, but I guess your hand kind of covers it. But yeah, it's a lot more sort of lighter compared to this, but I guess it's just a sticker wraparound, which is a little bit of a shame. Then we have the Gallifreyan button there. You can see the detail there, which I think the chrome does bring out more of the detail on the Gallifreyan button personally. But yeah, you've got this nice sort of silver finish there. But I guess the main notable difference, of course, is when you get to this, where we have the Vax Metal plastic against the sort of standard silver paint details there, which yeah, it's fine. But yeah, if we lift it up there with both Sonics extended, you get an idea of what they both look like. Sort of funnel section seems more, I want to say slightly more frosted, maybe because it doesn't have the color changing setting, so it makes it a little bit more brighter for the blue. But yeah, you can see it's pretty much the same there, just the main difference being the Vax metal plastic. In terms of which one I prefer, I think in terms of appearance, I think I personally prefer the mass retail one, simply because I'm not a huge fan of Vax metal plastic. I think it makes it look cheap and tacky, and I think it's one of those things where if this takes a shelf dive, it will probably shatter, because the Vax metal plastic is a very brittle material. So it's not one you want to be taking out to Comic-Cons and events. So I think if you're a person who likes cosplaying and taking sonic screwdrivers on your travels, this one's probably the better one to take, because in the nicest way possible, this one's a lot cheaper to replace compared to this one, even though this one's is getting a second run. But I think that this one as well looks more closer to the actual prop, just going off the images we've seen. But yeah, I think that if this takes a shelf dive, you better pray to the Sonic God that it stays in one piece. But yeah, overall I'd say in terms of appearance, I personally prefer the mass retail version. Moving on to the features for this sonic screwdriver. So I will say, when extending the sonic screwdrivers, this one's a lot more easier to slide, whereas this one you've got to use a bit more force. I don't know if that's due to the Vax metal, but you've got to put a little bit more force behind it compared to this, where it's just a lot more smoother, I would say, to extend the Sonic. So this is what both Sonics look like. In terms of light and features, they both have the same 5 modes, which I won't go through all of them. If you want to hear all the sounds, then check out the review of this, because it's exactly the same. So if we just see the Sonics lit up, you can see what they look like. You can see there, you can see the differences. Yeah, and if we just do a little look there, you can see that the claws are they seem a bit more extended and more out compared to well, the mass retail one, the claws, or the petals seem a lot more more extended, whereas this seems on this side seem to be a lot more closed, more narrow in. Yeah, which is interesting. So if we light both Sonics, you can see how the light travels up the claws there, because there is a light inside these little prongs on the actual prop. Obviously the toy doesn't have those little LEDs, but you can see the light still travels up pretty well on the actual mass retail. The Sonics both still feature the same sort of rotating section, so you can change the settings. Again, it seems a lot more smoother on the mass retail. This is a bit more stiff. I don't know if that's due to the actual Vax metal plastic, but I guess moving on to the big question people have probably been asking, does this sonic screwdriver have the ability to have the red setting, the green setting and the yellow setting? The answer is no. So I will say, in terms of features, the limited edition one does win that. As you can see, the limited one has this little button, and of course if you hold it, you can change the lights and features. So if we just do exactly the same there, you can see the button has been sort of taken off there, you can see. So I will have to say the limited one does win features because of having all the different color modes, which is very cool. Yeah, it's interesting that that sort of locks behind the online exclusive, which is interesting. So with those out of the way in terms of the appearance of the Sonic and the features, which one do I prefer? That is the big question. I am really torn on this because I think each Sonic has pros. I prefer the appearance of the mass retail because I'm not a fan of the Vax metal plastics. Like I say, it's a fragile material, it's very brittle, and I think over time it probably will disintegrate into a million pieces. whereas this has got it's a little bit more durable, I would say. So if you're a cosplayer, you'll want to take the mass retail one with you to these events, because I fear if this was in your pocket, it probably, especially with how the Sonic's designed, the cage section will probably snap and break into, like I say, a million pieces, which is not ideal. In terms of features, this one is a much better toy. The online one is so much more of a toy, which is interesting to say, considering this is the exclusive one, where you think the mass retail one would be more of a toy, I would say. You know, so I think that's one plus with this, having the lights and be able to change the actual Sonic's settings, and having the red mode and the yellow and green mode. It's all very cool, but this Sonic still has the basic functions what the Sonic has, you know, the blue mode with the 5 sound effects, which is all cool. The next factor is price. The online version is basically £30, and this is retailed at £18.99. It could be more with postage, and I know a lot of people were kicking off about the price of this being, you know, 30 quid. But when you consider what you get with the limited version in terms of this paint app, you know, Vax Metal is much more of an expensive process, and it being an exclusive, you're naturally going to pay a little bit more, and you're paying essentially £10 more for the features and the presentation for this Sonic. So if you're not really fussed on the light modes and stuff, so the standard makes in for a great sort of stand-in for it, and I think that you know, it does feel more like it is made to be taken to these things, because like I say, it's a lot more easier to use this Sonic. It just seems a lot more loose in terms of the sort of sliding mechanism, whereas this is, you've got to put a bit more force behind it compared to the retail version. So the big question is, which one do I prefer out of the online and the mass retail? Well, I think I prefer the mass retail version. I think the packaging's I prefer the darker color scheme of the packaging. I think this looks much more closer to the actual prop what we've seen on like Doctor Who magazine. I think that the limited one, though, is a better toy with having the, you know, the different secret Easter eggs. It's just something the Vax Metal plastic just rubs me up the wrong way. It just makes it look very sort of cheap and tacky. It seems like a knockoff, which is weird to say, even though this is the premium version of this Sonic. But I think the mass retail version, it's one I'm not scared to touch, and in the sense that if I'm scared, I will, you know, activate the sounds or just slide it. This Sonic will probably break into a million pieces. I'm scared of using this Sonic, whereas this just seems like it can survive a few knocks and dings. You know, it's got a little bit of, it's a bit rubbery, so you know, it's not going to go brittle. It's got a bit of give, whereas if I did that would probably break. So I think that each to their own. I think as a display piece, this is a good display piece. But if you're an everyday person who likes to go to Comic-Cons and take Sonic Screwdriver around and pretend you're the Doctor, this is probably the one to take, because like I say, it's cheaper to replace, and like I say, for now this has got a high market value because they haven't done the second run yet. So with that out of the way, my winner is probably the mass retail version. Both Sonics has their own pros and cons. I would love this Sonic to have the little Easter egg feature. I'm sure you could sort of modify the Sonic so it could have it, but I'm not clever enough to do that. So I will just enjoy the simple blue mode with this Sonic and just go, that's nice, having all those different colours on the limited. So like I say, it's up to you in a way which one you prefer, but for me, the mass retail one just seems much more closer to the actual prop. You know, and if I do get the rubber toe replica version, we can do a little comparison on all three Sonics, which will be cool. So that concludes the limited versus standard 14th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver edition. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, then please do like and subscribe, as it really does help the channel out. There's more Doctor Who character options videos coming up in the near future, such as the reviews of the B&M set. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.